Dusk settles over the thornveld of southern Africa in the late dry season. Heat drains slowly from the baked earth, releasing the mineral scent of dust and old roots. A faint wind combs through brittle grass, carrying with it the distant calls of francolins preparing to roost. Shadows lengthen and merge beneath umbrella-shaped acacias, dissolving the boundaries between ground and air. A leopard moves within that dissolving light, almost invisible until it chooses not to be. Its body flows low through the scrub, paws finding bare soil between thorns without sound. Hunger sharpens its restraint. For several nights the plains have offered little. The antelope herds have shifted toward permanent water, leaving the predator to search the margins. Ahead, a porcupine feeds among fallen pods, unconcerned with concealment. Its heavy body sways as it gnaws, incisors rasping against a hardened shell. Each movement produces a dry, hollow rattle, quills brushing and clicking like brittle reeds. It does not scan the horizon. Its defense is not vigilance, but consequence. The leopard pauses, head lowered, ears angled forward. In most encounters, stealth decides the outcome long before contact is made. Tonight, the calculation is different. Between predator and prey stand an animal that does not run and cannot be seized without risk. In the ecosystems of sub-Saharan Africa, the crested porcupine, African crested porcupine, occupies a paradoxical position. It is neither swift nor outwardly aggressive, yet it persists across landscapes shaped by some of the most efficient predators on Earth. Its success lies in anatomy rather than speed. A mantle of modified hairs hardened into quills, each capable of penetrating muscle and embedding deep beneath skin. Contrary to popular myth, the quills cannot be projected. Defense depends on proximity, a last line held with evolutionary patience. These porcupines inhabit a range extending from arid savannas to rocky hillsides and woodland edges, favoring terrain that offers both edible roots and secure burrows. Primarily nocturnal, they emerge after sunset to forage on tubers, bark, fallen fruit, and cultivated crops when available. Their incisors, reinforced with iron-rich enamel, grow continuously, enabling them to gnaw through dense plant tissue and even bone. In doing so, they recycle calcium back into ecosystems, leaving behind distinctive tooth-marked fragments that speak to a quieter ecological role. One not predator or prey, but a persistent consumer. The leopard, represents the opposite strategy. Solitary, adaptable, and among the most versatile hunters in the feline lineage, it occupies habitats ranging from rainforest margins to semi-desert escarpments. Its power lies in stealth and explosive acceleration over short distances. Muscular forelimbs enable it to grapple prey often heavier than itself, while retractable claws maintain razor edges for the moment of contact. Unlike coursing predators that exhaust their targets, the leopard depends on surprise measured in fractions of a second. Evolution has refined this predator through a long arms race with alert herbivores. Camouflage breaks its outline into fragments of shadow and light. Sensitive whiskers detect air movement near obstacles during night hunts. A flexible spine allows sudden directional changes mid-charge. Yet these adaptations assume a prey response based on flight, a burst of panic that exposes a neck or flank. Against animals that stand their ground, the leopard's usual sequence of actions can falter. Documented observations across southern and eastern Africa reveal that porcupines represent one of the most dangerous prey choices a leopard can make. Wildlife veterinarians and field biologists have recorded individuals found with quills embedded in faces, paws, and chests, sometimes numbering in the dozens. Because the quills are barbed microscopically, they migrate deeper with muscle movement, risking infection, impaired vision, or starvation if the animal can no longer hunt effectively. Some leopards learn caution after such encounters. Others, driven by hunger or inexperience, repeat the mistake. This uneasy relationship illustrates a rare reversal within the food chain, a herbivore capable of inflicting lethal injury without pursuing attack. It reshapes the predator's decision-making, introducing a variable where the cost of failure may exceed the benefit of success. In ecological terms, the porcupine becomes not merely prey, but a living hazard embedded within the landscape, a reminder that survival strategies need not rely on speed or strength alone, but on making predation itself a dangerous gamble. The evolutionary histories of these two mammals diverged tens of millions of years ago, shaped by entirely different pressures, yet converging on a single ecological intersection: the night. Porcupines belong to an ancient rodent lineage that expanded across Africa when climates oscillated between forest and savanna. As open habitats spread, vulnerability to large carnivores intensified. Natural selection favored individuals with thicker, more rigid guard hairs, gradually transforming them into the defensive quills seen today. Fossil evidence suggests that early porcupines lacking extensive armor were far more susceptible to predation, indicating that the modern form is a product of relentless filtering by predators that remove the unprotected from the gene pool. The quills themselves are not uniform. Along the back and flanks, long, needle-sharp spines serve as primary deterrents, while shorter, sturdier quills around the hindquarters act as reinforcement during a backward charge, the porcupine's characteristic defensive maneuver. Hollow tail quills produce a rattling warning when shaken, an acoustic signal detectable in darkness where visual cues fail. Behavioral studies have shown that this sound often halts an advancing predator momentarily, buying the porcupine time to orient its armored rear toward the threat. It is a defense built on escalation. Warning first, injury only if contact becomes unavoidable. Leopards evolve along a separate trajectory within the genus Panthera, adapting to a world where competition with larger carnivores demanded flexibility. Unlike lions that rely on group strength or cheetahs that depend on speed, leopards survive by becoming generalists. They climb to cache kills beyond the reach of hyenas, swim when necessary, and shift prey preferences according to availability. Radio collar studies across reserves in South Africa and Namibia reveal diets encompassing more than 90 species, from insect to ungulates several times their weight. This adaptability explains their persistence in fragmented habitats where other large predators decline. Yet generalism carries its own risks. A predator that attempts many prey types must constantly assess unfamiliar dangers. Young leopards, newly independent, are especially prone to misjudgment. Without the experience to recognize warning signals, they may approach porcupines as they would any medium-sized mammal. Researchers analyzing skull injuries have noted a higher frequency of quill wounds in subadult individuals, suggesting a harsh learning curve in which mistakes leave permanent scars or prove fatal. Environmental pressures intensify these encounters during the dry season. As water sources shrink, herbivores migrate, thinning the leopard's usual prey base. Porcupine, however, remain resident, sustained by underground storage organs and bark stripped from drought-stressed trees. Their predictable movements around burrow systems make them more detectable, even if not more vulnerable. For a starving predator, the calculation shifts: energy gained from a successful kill versus the possibility of crippling injury. It is a gamble shaped by immediate need rather than optimal strategy. Within the broader food web, this interaction underscores the neutrality of natural systems. Neither species is designed to oppose the other specifically. Their confrontation arises from overlapping survival requirements. The porcupine does not hunt, yet it influences predator populations by imposing costs on those that miscalculate. The leopard does not specialize in armored prey, yet hunger can override inherited caution. In this way, ecosystems are governed not only by who eats whom, but by how risk distributes itself among participants, an invisible balance maintained through countless silent encounters beneath the cover of darkness. Survival for the porcupine is defined by a strategy rare among mammals of its size: defense through inevitability rather than escape. When threatened, it does not rely on speed. It cannot outrun a leopard, nor on concealment once discovered. Instead, it pivots, presenting the dense array of quills along its back and hindquarters. Muscles at the base of each quill allow them to stand erect, doubling the animal's apparent size. Field observations show that many predators abandon the approach at this stage alone, deterred by the visual expansion and the dry, rattling hiss produced by vibrating tail quills. If the threat persists, the porcupine advances backward in a sudden rush, attempting to drive the quills into sensitive areas of the attacker's face or chest. It is a preemptive defense that turns proximity into danger, transforming the moment of capture into the moment of injury. For the leopard, hunting is normally an exercise in minimizing risk. Its method depends on isolating a vulnerable target, closing distance unseen, and delivering a suffocating bite to the throat or muzzle. Against antelope or small mammals, the sequence is efficient and repeatable. Against the porcupine, the sequence breaks down. There is no safe grip on the neck, no exposed flank to seize without encountering quills. Documented footage from camera traps reveals hesitant circling behavior, the predator searching for an angle that does not exist. Some leopards attempt a paw swipe to flip the porcupine, aiming to expose the softer underside, but this maneuver places their forelimbs within reach of the spines. Injuries to paws are particularly debilitating. Even a minor infection can compromise the silent movement required for future hunts. Intelligence, in this context, manifests not as problem-solving in a human sense, but as adaptive restraint. Experienced leopards often ignore porcupines entirely, recognizing the disproportionate cost. Younger individuals, however, driven by hunger and lacking prior injury, may persist. Biologists studying predator decision-making describe this as a feedback system shaped by pain. Individuals that survive a quill encounter modify their prey selection afterward. The landscape thus becomes a map of remembered dangers, invisible to observers but etched into behavior. This interaction also reveals a broader principle of predator-prey dynamics. Survival does not always favor the stronger organism, but the one that alters the opponent's calculations. The porcupine cannot kill the leopard outright, yet it can make the attempt so hazardous that success becomes irrelevant. In doing so, it occupies a unique niche, a herbivore whose presence influences the hunting patterns of apex predators without ever pursuing them. Parenting and social structure further shape the porcupine's survival strategy. Crested porcupines are largely monogamous, with pairs maintaining shared burrows that serve as both shelter and nursery. Litters of 1 to 3 young are born altricial, eyes closed and bodies covered in soft underfur, rather than hardened quills. Within the first 2 weeks, the first quills emerge, soft at first, stiffening over time. The parent's role is crucial. They rotate foraging duties, maintain the burrow, and provide protection. Field studies in the Kalahari indicate that the presence of an adult can reduce predation risk for juveniles by nearly half, as adults position themselves between threats and vulnerable offspring. Quills first. The social bond, though limited compared to pack hunters, reinforces survival through cooperative defense, an unusual dynamic among solitary rodents. Rival species present another layer of ecological context. While leopards pose a significant threat, they are not the only predators interacting with porcupines. Hyenas and lions occasionally attempt predation, but these larger carnivores often abandon attacks after initial contact, recognizing the risk of deep quill penetration. Similarly, African civets and large owls take porcupine young, but rarely engage adults. Each predator's approach is modified by the porcupine's defensive morphology, shaping local predator populations indirectly. The porcupine's quills influence predator behavior at multiple scales, creating a ripple effect through the food web. Observationally, the leopard-porcupine encounter is a study in instinct versus adaptation. The predator relies on inherited hunting sequences, honed over millennia, yet the porcupine forces deviation from these patterns. It is a test of precision, patience, and risk assessment under pressure. Each hesitation, swipe, and misjudgment demonstrates that intelligence in the wild is often expressed as recognition of danger rather than manipulation of tools. Predation, therefore, is not merely a matter of speed or strength, but of situational awareness and adaptability. Finally, the moral neutrality of nature is evident in these encounters. There is no malice in the porcupine, no malice in the leopard. Each acts according to evolutionary imperatives, shaped by survival pressures and environmental context. Injury, starvation, success, and death unfold without judgment, yet the consequences ripple through the ecosystem. Researchers emphasize that such interactions, while dramatic to observers, maintain the balance of species populations and genetic diversity. Risk and reward exist only as biological constants, unmediated by sentiment. Finally, the moral neutrality of nature is evident in these encounters. There is no malice in the porcupine, no malice in the leopard. Each acts according to evolutionary imperatives, shaped by survival pressures and environmental context. Injury, starvation, success, and death unfold without judgment, yet the consequences ripple through the ecosystem. Researchers emphasize that such interactions, while dramatic to observers, maintain the balance of species populations and genetic diversity. Risk and reward exist only as biological constants, unmediated by sentiment. Night deepens over the thornveld. The air cools sharply, and shadows merge into one continuous darkness beneath acacias and rocky outcrops. A leopard, lean from several nights of unsuccessful hunts, moves silently along a faint game trail. Muscles coil for sudden action. Its senses are acutely tuned. Every rustle of leaves, every faint scuff of soil underfoot carries the possibility of sustenance. Hunger drives precision. Hesitation can mean another night empty-mouthed. Ahead, a porcupine feeds near the entrance of a rocky burrow. Its body sways rhythmically, incisors rasping against a dry root. Tail quills vibrate softly, producing a low rattling that blends with the wind. Unaware of the predator at first, it is a picture of slow persistence. The armor of evolution manifests in fur and needle. When the leopard emerges into partial moonlight, a pause ensues, brief yet decisive. The predator crouches, calculating distance and angle, muscles tightening like drawn cables. The leopard strikes. In a burst of speed, it lunges, aiming for the neck, paws extended in the practiced sweep designed to subdue prey instantly. But the porcupine pivots, hindquarters forward, quills bristling fully. The leopard's paw meets resistance. Barbed spines embed into the pads and muzzle. The animal recoils instinctively, shaking to dislodge the quills, but the damage is done. A hiss escapes, quills clattering as predator and prey separate briefly. The porcupine retreats a few steps, quills swinging in warning, prepared to repeat the maneuver if necessary. Field studies note that such encounters rarely end quickly. Leopards may attempt multiple swipes, circling, repositioning, testing for an opening, while porcupines hold ground or retreat within the safety of rock outcrops. Each exchange is governed by instantaneous decisions: attack or abandon, advance or pivot, strike where safe or risk injury. For the predator, the cost is immediate: potential pain, infection, or incapacitation. For the prey, the stakes are survival itself, dependent on remaining oriented, quills raised, and body between threat and burrow. The scene is tense not because of dramatized heroics, but because evolution has designed it so. Every movement, every muscle contraction, every calculated step carries consequence. In the wild, even a slight misjudgment can tip the scales irreversibly, underscoring that the hunter could become the hunted in moments measured only in fractions of a second. The leopard circles once more, eyes fixed, nostrils flaring as it senses the porcupine's scent and movement. Its forelimbs bear the first puncture wounds. The pads are nicked, quills embedded at angles that make removal difficult. Despite the pain, the predator tests for vulnerability, pawing cautiously, trying to flip the porcupine to expose softer underparts. Each swipe meets resistance, quills scraping, barbs hooking into skin. The porcupine, anticipating this, shifts its weight backward, the long guard quills rattling in unison, producing an audible warning that echoes faintly across the dry felt. Minutes stretch in the low light. The leopard hesitates, muscles tensed, considering cost versus reward. Hunger wars with caution. In some encounters, leopards persist too long, resulting in deeper quill embedding. Facial injuries, scratches on eyes, sometimes punctures to the chest or limbs that can prove lethal. Tonight, experience and instinct guide the decision. The predator takes a final cautious swipe, fails to create an opening, and slowly withdraws, quills still embedded in its paws. Pain registers, but survival instinct prevails. The cost of persistence outweighs the potential gain. The porcupine, uninjured but alert, retreats a short distance toward the cover of a rocky outcrop. Its gait is deliberate, slow, emphasizing control rather than flight. Within the darkness, it becomes an armored silhouette, a creature that survived an apex predator's full attention without harm. Observations in similar encounters show that porcupines rarely pursue predators. Survival is measured in resistance and retreat, not confrontation. This exchange illustrates a fundamental truth of predator-prey dynamics. The leopard, despite evolutionary adaptations designed for stealth, speed, and killing precision, encounters situations where standard tactics fail. The porcupine, stationary yet armed, imposes constraints on predation, forcing the hunter to reconsider instinctive behaviors. Ecologists note that these interactions, repeated across populations and generations, influence hunting strategies, prey selection, and even the movement patterns of predators across a landscape. In the aftermath of the hunt, the leopard licks its wounded paw pads, cautious, aware that a misstep could mean infection or impair mobility in the coming days. The porcupine settles into the safety of its rocky refuge. Quills flaring slightly, ears flicking, muscles still coiled from defensive exertion. Both animals survive the encounter, but the encounter itself leaves an imprint on body, behavior, and the invisible ledger of risk and reward that governs life on the veldt. As dawn breaks over the thornveld, the leopard rests beneath the shadow of a lone acacia. Its paw pads, punctured and swollen from the quill encounter, throb with each subtle movement. The leopard licks at them methodically, instinctively cleaning to reduce the risk of infection. Field studies indicate that even minor quill injuries can impede hunting efficiency for days, forcing the predator to modify movement patterns and prey choices. For subadult leopards, these wounds can have more severe consequences, limiting access to smaller, easier prey and increasing vulnerability during the critical period of independence from maternal support. Meanwhile, the porcupine remains within the rocky crevice where it weathered the night's assault. Its body is unmarked, a testament to the efficacy of its quill defense. Observers note that porcupines expend energy deliberately. They do not flee blindly, but retreat just far enough to remain within their protective range. This restraint conserves calories and reduces exposure to other predators, a crucial adaptation during the late dry season, when foraging success can be unpredictable. In the larger ecological context, these encounters have cascading effects. Leopards adjusting their hunting patterns may shift towards smaller rodents or nocturnal birds, temporarily relieving pressure on other herbivore populations. Porcupines, by surviving attacks from apex predators, maintain their role in vegetation management, gnawing on roots and bark that would otherwise accumulate unchecked. Their activity facilitates seed dispersal and soil turnover, influencing the structure of plant communities over time. Researchers tracking predator-prey interactions have also observed behavioral learning across species. Leopards that survive quill encounters often avoid porcupines in subsequent hunts, demonstrating that risk assessment is not purely instinctual but informed by experience. The porcupine, in contrast, reinforces defensive behavior across generations through survival without adaptation. The quills themselves are sufficient. Such asymmetry in learning reflects the differing pressures and strategies of predator and prey, illustrating that the consequences of a single encounter extend far beyond the immediate participants. In the days following the encounter, the leopard's behavior changes subtly but noticeably. It moves more cautiously through areas where porcupines are known to forage, pausing longer to scent the ground and examine burrows. Tracking data from camera traps show extended hunting times and altered prey selection, with a preference for animals that can be subdued with less risk of injury. Even minor quill punctures can restrict climbing ability, a significant handicap for a species that relies on elevated ambush sites and kill caching to protect food from competitors. The physical toll is immediate, but the behavioral imprint may persist for weeks, shaping not only individual survival but also local predator-prey dynamics. The porcupine, conversely, experiences minimal direct cost. Energy expenditure during defensive maneuvers is offset by foraging efficiency during daylight and early night hours. Its quills remain intact, ready to deter subsequent threats. Over time, repeated interactions like this reinforce the species' reputation among predators, indirectly affecting predator density and hunting success in the area. This ripple effect illustrates a rarely highlighted ecological principle. A prey species' defense can influence predator movement patterns, feeding rates, and even reproductive success. On a broader scale, these encounters maintain ecological balance. Predators that overestimate their capacity or underestimate defensive adaptations risk injury or death, preventing overpredation of certain prey. Prey species that can defend themselves without unnecessary energy expenditure persist, stabilizing plant and animal communities dependent on their foraging. In this way, each interaction, while appearing isolated and tense, contributes to the long-term structure of the ecosystem. Observers in field studies emphasize that such encounters, while dramatic, are common. Predators face hazard with every hunt. Survival is a matter of careful calculation, instinct, and sometimes simple luck. Prey survival is rarely heroic. It is persistence, armor, and adherence to behaviors honed over millennia. Both species leave the encounter with lessons inscribed in muscle memory and cautionary patterns, subtly shaping the flow of life across the thornveld. Night recedes fully, and the thornveld exhales under the pale light of morning. The leopard limps silently toward a distant thicket, its movements cautious, informed by the quills that pierce not only skin but instinct. The porcupine, now settled within the crevice of a rocky outcrop, stands as it always has, armored, patient, and unconcerned with the world beyond its immediate survival. This encounter, raw and unembellished, is a testament to nature's impartiality. There is no triumph, no villain, no hero, only life adhering to the relentless calculus of consequence and adaptation. Predators may dominate, yet even they are measured by the defenses of their prey. Prey may seem vulnerable, yet evolution grants them tools that can invert expectation, turning pursuit into peril. In the quiet aftermath, one sees the balance of ecosystems not in grand spectacle, but in these moments of tension and retreat, in decisions made in fractions of a second, in survival earned through both caution and resilience. Life persists not through morality, but through endurance, through bodies and instincts finely tuned to risk and reward. The porcupine and the leopard embody this equilibrium. One teaches restraint, the other learns it. One survives by defense, the other by adaptation. Together, they are neither adversaries nor allies, but participants in the ongoing rhythm of life, a rhythm governed by neither justice nor malice, only the immutable laws of survival.